First question is the economy is always listed as the most important subject for many voters. If you were in Congress, what would you do to try to improve the economy, and what could you do as a congressional representative to ensure that people in the first district have access to plentiful, good-paying jobs?
Well, you're correct. I do think that that is a big issue that's on the mind of a lot of voters and a lot of people in this area. And I think that one thing that we could work to do is repealing regulations off of businesses. As a lot of people know, I do lean very libertarian on a lot of things, and so I support repealing the minimum wage. The minimum wage to me is probably the biggest hindrance on our economy that we have. It was part of FDR's New Deal, and it basically allows corporations to use taxpayer subsidy programs as the working mule for Fat Cat Corporate America. Fat Cat Corporate America doesn't have to pay livable wages, because if they pay minimum wage, then people can go and then qualify for taxpayer subsidy programs, which is like legal money laundering. So that is a big thing that I would support repealing, so that way people can actually earn a livable wage on their own, because even places like fast food restaurants still have to have employees that can do their job. If you're McDonald's and you have a guy with 8 years of experience at Burger King versus someone who has no experience, you're going to pay more to the person with experience from Burger King, because they're going to do a better job. They're going to have a lower food cost expense, like making orders wrong. People don't realize that stuff because it's just always been considered a minimum wage job. But you should be able to earn your livable wage, and I think that in Northeast Tennessee specifically, automation is going to hit us hard over the next 7 to 10 years. We're not going to have regular jobs anymore. We're not going to have fast food jobs or cashier jobs. They're just going to be machines. And so looking from that aspect, I think that the cannabis industry would be a really good buffer industry for automation, which is why I support the federal legalization of cannabis, because that would bring new sales jobs, new farming jobs, new medical jobs, new small business jobs. And that could really help Northeast Tennessee not only grow in population so that we can develop a better workforce to have bigger, higher paying jobs come here, but it would also help us not be, SOL, basically. So yeah, I think that would be a good way for us to kind of soften the blow.
What is the best way legislatively to prevent gun violence, and specifically school shootings and mass shootings?
To me, all gun laws are illegal and unconstitutional, shall not be infringed is crystal clear. It's silly to think that the government gets to tell people what they can and can't have when the Second Amendment exists to overthrow an unjust government. As far as school shootings and stuff go, it's always frustrated me that court systems and nightclubs have metal detectors, but we don't have those on our schools. So I think that we should, legislatively, that's not a gun law, that's a protective law. We should be installing metal detectors in all of our schools across the country to ensure that parents can send their kids to school knowing that nothing bad is going to happen to them while they're there. And when it's mandated by the government that you have to send your kids to school, then they should definitely be protected while they're there. There should never be any fear in any parent's heart that their children is going to be harmed at school. Their child is going to be harmed at school.
What is your plan for fixing America's immigration problem?
That's a complicated question. I think that people have been beating their head against a brick wall for so long on immigration that they aren't really able to make a decision on it, and you have no bipartisan, neither one of the parties want to come together on that. My solution would be, America exists to be a beacon of freedom for the world. And if we can get our borders secured by building the wall, then I think that that's the only way we're actually ever going to have an immigration system that works. And for that immigration system to work, I think as long as we can properly vet people, you're not a murderer, a rapist, or a terrorist, then come in. And if you want to come in, then you have to sign a waiver saying that you're not eligible for taxpayer programs. You have to learn the English language. You have to keep a job. You have to follow our laws. And for 10 years, you'd have to pay an extra tax towards our national debt to prove your love for our country. And if you can do that for 10 years, then I think you should be allowed a path to citizenship. But if not, then if you don't want to learn the English language, you end up on taxpayer subsidy programs, or you don't want to, you're out there driving around without a license or something crazy, then get out. But if we don't have a secure border and we don't properly vet people that are coming in here, then we're never going to be able to have a system like that works. But that's what America's for, is for people who are oppressed. That's what the Statue of Liberty says at the bottom. It says, give me you're oppressed, you're weary, you're heavy laden, or something like that. So I think that we need to remember what we stand for to the rest of the world and why people want to come here. And it's not always the case for everybody. That's why we have to vet people before they come here. But I don't think it should be solely merit-based, because that's saying, you're not good enough to come here if you're not, highfalutin or well-to-do, and that's not what America stands for.
How important is it to not increase the national debt and to balance the annual budget?
It is extremely important. That's one of my big ones. Congressman Jenkins introduced a balanced budget amendment every year that he was in office. That's something that I will continue to do if elected. And I think that's why I support repealing about 75% of FDR's New Deal, because all these federal departments and bureaucracies, and they're all huge drains on taxpayer dollars. And if we don't start eliminating some of these and phasing them out, then we're never going to be able to balance a budget. And if we can't ever balance a budget, then we're never going to be able to repay our national debt. And we're just going to continue to put that on the backs of future generations, on our grandchildren's grandchildren's grandchildren. And we're robbing them of the posterity that's granted to them in the Bill of Rights and in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution. And that's wrong. So we need to think about the future of our country.
What, if anything, do you think President Trump could have done better in his handling of COVID-19?
I'm not a big fan of the whole COVID stuff. I think a lot of it's very politically motivated. I actually was very proud of our president when he first came out and was pretty much against, all of the regulations. And I think that it was really far outside of his wheelhouse. He's not a virologist. And so, he did want to protect the American people. And he listened to Fauci and the WHO. And then when he realized that it was becoming just a really big overreach of the government, especially with the governors demanding face masks and all this and that, then he's kind of backed out, which is why he just officially withdrew us from the WHO, which will be effective July of next year, which is awesome. And I think that he's done a really great job. This is a situation that very few presidents have ever had to deal with, and I think that he did a really great job making sure that everybody was protected. I was against the shutdown. I still am against the shutdown. I think that we should have been quarantining the sick, not the healthy. And I think a lot of people forget that our immune system is literally made of bacteria and viruses. That's all it's made of. And so by sheltering in place and wearing these face masks, you're actually just weakening your immune system, because that's the constant interchanging of bacteria and viruses that keeps your immune system strong. So I think that's important for people to remember too. I mean, I'm not like a scientist or anything, but I've taken biology, so.
Do you believe climate change is real? And if so, what do you think is the best approach to combat it?
No, I don't think climate change is real. And I think that any type of regulations that are imposed to prevent climate change are just really big federal government things. And I am for very, very small and very limited federal government.
If you were elected to Congress, what would you do to address the racial tension that's been evident in recent protests, and how would you try to improve race relations in the 1st District?
I think that it's really sad what's happening in our country. The George Floyd incident was very sad, and I feel like it really united everybody across the country when that happened. Everybody was angry about that. Everybody was mad about that. And it just seems that things were pushed to a point where they got out of control with Antifa, the rioting and the looting and the burning businesses down and stuff. That's not justice. If we want to have those types of things, they need to be specifically directed at the government, not at fellow citizens. That's not what America is about. And I think that it got really out of control. I think it's still really out of control. I understand the frustrations, of the Black community. They have been historically, discriminated against. And I think that we do need to wake up and realize that that is a problem. But I also think that it has gotten out of hand. And I'm honestly, I'm not sure, what we can do at this point, but to just keep on keeping on and hope that things, get better.
Do you support a regional economic development effort that could involve merging like networks and NetRep and potentially chambers of commerce, at least in the Tri-Cities? And if you do, what role, if any, do you think a congressperson could take in that?
You're talking about like regionalism? Mm-hmm. I am not a fan of combining Washington County and Sullivan County together. Sullivan County is already a really, really, really big county. And to combine it with Washington County, which is fairly large as well. It would make like a super county, and I think that doing that would give more power to that county than the rest of our district. And I think that we just need to kind of leave that stuff alone. We don't have to combine these things to incentivize people to come here. That's not the way to go about it. Marketing is about promoting what it's like to live here, not by combining counties. So I am for us promoting our region and encouraging people to move here and to be a part of Northeast Tennessee, but I'm against combining the counties, if that makes any sense.
And this was more in terms of the economic development entities.
I would love for us to be able to, have that economic regional development. I know that we can start marketing our area better to tourists, to people who live even around in our region, just a little farther out. To think about moving here. We have the beautiful mountains, we have lakes, we have good people here. So there's lots of reasons to move here without having to combine counties.
Is there any approach that President Trump has taken to his job that you would have done differently?
No, I think he's done a really great job. There's a couple of things that I've disagreed with the president on, but I think that nobody's going to agree with him on every single thing. And if they do, then that's something that they should probably look at, because you should never just blindly follow anyone. But I'm a very big supporter. I've even got my Trump bracelet on. Very big supporter of our president. I think he's the greatest president that we've ever had. I love the things that he has done for our country and for our international relations, and trying to bring jobs back here. I didn't support raising the smoking age to 21 because the government's not your daddy. If your parents can't tell you what to do when you're over 18, then the government shouldn't be telling you what to do, and there shouldn't be levels of adulthood. Between 18 and 21 is the only time that you can get charged for being underage as an adult. So I think those are things that we need to look at. We either need to make everything the age limit of 21 or make everything the age limit of 18, but there shouldn't be like two different ages. It just doesn't make sense. So.
Okay, so we're to the last question.
Mm-hmm.
This is your moment to speak to voters. And what makes you the best person to represent?
Well, I think I'm the best person to represent our district because I declared for this seat in August before Congressman Rowe announced his retirement. I have been campaigning the longest. To me, it wasn't about who's in office or, party politics or all this. I just got a fire in my belly last year in January when they passed that full-term abortion law in New York and lit this fire up pink to celebrate. I felt like something changed in me that day. And that's when I kind of started internally arguing with myself on whether or not I was crazy for thinking this was something I could do because I'm just a regular person. And then I kind of pushed that back into April, and that's when I kind of started looking into things that I could do or steps that I could take, and even when the election was. And then in July, when the squad came out, I felt like, if these three can do it, I can do it. And so that's when I just ordered some cards and registered with the FEC and made my Facebook page and just started going everywhere to all the fairs and fall festivals and Christmas parades and gun shows and barbershops and volunteer fire departments and farm bureau meetings and bull riding events, and I've been everywhere like Johnny Cash. And that's what campaigns are for. Campaigns are to prove how hard you're willing to work for your district so that they know how hard you'll work for them in Washington. And I have outworked every single candidate in this race. I've given over 30,000 cards by hand, and I have done more to get out and meet people and spend time in some of the smaller counties like Hancock County and Cobb County and Carter County and Unicoi than any other candidate. And I hope that people are paying attention and that they are properly vetting their candidates and not just going on signs that they see or these big spenders on TV, and actually look who has the best interest at heart for our district. And I do feel like that I'm that person. So.
Nichole Williams,
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and
Thank
I appreciate you coming in to
Absolutely.
speak with us.
Sure.